Well, good morning, everybody. The session is starting to ramp up some. You see some activity starting to happen in some of the committees. You saw yesterday we passed the healthcare exchange out of the tax committee. It's now headed to full finance. So next week, I think you can expect there's probably a number of the different finance divisions that will have to be heard in before it can get up to the floor of the Senate. The early enrollment in MA passed out of the Health and Human Service Finance Division this week, and you can expect some more action on that probably next week. Floor action this week, if you were paying attention, we got 5 more of the commissioners, the governor's commissioners, approved by the Senate. The employee contracts yesterday we got done, and I feel pretty good about that, actually. It's a little disappointing we didn't have a little bit more Republican support for them, but I was glad that it was a bipartisan vote. There were, I believe, 2 Republican senators that decided to vote for the contract for public employees. So things are starting to happen, and wanted to be here today to let you know I'm still in the building. Anyway, I'll turn it over to Paul.
Okay. Well, thanks. So, you know, the State of the State was the big news this week, and I think Governor Dayton did lay out the questions before the people of Minnesota, which is, are we going to stick with the status quo, or are we going to move forward and make some of the changes we need to make sure that Minnesota is a place that people want to live and people want to do business in 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. And I think that is our charge as we move forward here, and we're serious about taking up his challenge to make sure that we put together a budget that's going to accomplish that. The House Public Safety Committee, as many of you know, and probably spent a lot of hours in maybe this last week, held committee hearings on several gun bills, taking testimony from supporters and opponents. And I really did want to commend Representative Paymar for the way he handled the committee. I thought on a very contentious issue over many, many hours, the committee got a lot of very good information, testimony out about a whole variety of issues. And I do remain hopeful that the kind of input gathered there and continuing conversations are going to lead us to a place where we can reach some consensus about public safety and gun safety in the state of Minnesota yet this year in order to keep our kids and our communities safe. And we're going to also have a busier week on the floor and in committee next year, and I'm going to let Representative Murphy talk about that.
Good morning. So I do think that we'll have a continued busy week in the committees as they are really ramping up their work now and hearing bills and moving them through. You'll also, I think, anticipate busy floor sessions both on Monday and Thursday. On Monday, we anticipate we'll be taking up the expansion of medical assistance, which will provide coverage for over 35,000 more Minnesotans in 2015 and saves the state about $100 million. You'll see us take up federal tax conformity on Monday, which, we're just going to make sure that teachers and small business owners and homeowners get a break on their federal taxes, or their taxes here as a result of federal changes. On Thursday, I think you'll see us take up federal farmer lender mediation. And the state contracts is ready to go as well. And so I think we'll have both on Monday and Thursday substantial floor debates on the first bills that are moving through the floor. Also expect on Monday that we'll take up rules. And with that, we're happy to take your questions.
Speaker, yesterday Representative Dowd asked you about the governor's budget bills. You said you received 2. Right. Do you know when the rest are going to arrive? Have you talked to them about it?
I haven't. I should do that. I anticipate they're going to arrive soon and shortly, but I haven't had that conversation.
Have they missed some sort of deadline? He seemed to imply that.
Well, there is a deadline in statute that says 15 minutes after the budget, 15 days after the budget is released. Yes, what did I say? I don't even know what I said. 15 days after the budget is released, that they're supposed to, get their budget bills to us. I don't know when that has actually been met by any governor for quite a long time. So but I know those bills are being prepared and put together, and they're complicated. And so as soon as we get them, we'll start them moving through the process. But as we speak now, people are spending a lot of time digging into the the budget in general and getting a baseline understanding to look at those bills and other proposals.
How about on guns? You said you're hopeful you're going to reach consensus on that. Why do you think there's going to be a bipartisan bill? I think there was only one that seemed like it had bipartisan support so far.
So, and one is something, right? No, I just think that there's a lot of ideas out there, and the main point, I guess, I was trying to make is that it was a long and thorough conversation. I think a lot of good information came out. I think people were able to hear for the first time the other side of the coin, you know, from the position that they take, and I just think that that's a healthy process, and then we'll see how this moves now during through the next couple of weeks.
Would leadership support an assault weapons ban or a high-capacity magazine ban?
So it's not a caucus position that we take.
Senator Bakk, do you want to comment on any of the gun legislation that the House has been looking at?
Well, I did not watch any of it. I believe Senator Latz is going to have a couple days of hearings on gun-related measures the week of the 18th of February, so I think you'll see much of the same testimony probably that you saw in the House this last week. You'll see in the Senate that week of the 18th for 2 days. But it's an issue that Minnesotans are very divided on, and both sides feel very passionately about, much like some other social issues. And the committees will do their work, and I expect they're going to pass something and move it up to the floor. And I don't know at this point what that's going to look like.
Can you imagine gun legislation that you could support?
I think there's some things. I met with County Attorney Freeman, and he's got a 5-point thing, and I think not really have drilled down on it really hard. I think those proposals actually, at first blush, seem to make some sense to me. I mean, where you have repeat juvenile offenders, maybe trying them as adults, I think is worth some conversation. I think the idea of the straw purchases that he proposed, where somebody knowingly purchases a gun on behalf of a felon, I mean, I think that's serious. That's aiding and abetting. I think there are definitely the things he laid out are something I certainly support having a good conversation of, and at first blush, at least, I think I support.
Senator Bakk, do you own any of the types of weapons that the AR-15 weapons or anything like that for hunting?
No. Well, I don't know. I don't own an AR-15. Okay, I own a lot of semi-automatics, and first one I bought when I was in 11th grade, and it's a Remington 308, and it's what I use for deer hunting. So I mean, I own a lot of semi-automatic weapons, and I think if some people think those are assault weapons by definition, I guess then I have some, but I don't have an AR type weapon.
How many weapons do you own?
I don't know. I know I can't buy any more because my gun safe's full. So I either need to buy a bigger gun safe, and it's not big, but I don't know what's in there. But I've got several actually that my dad gave me. I didn't buy all of them, and that's what I think people are going to learn is fathers and grandfathers turn their gun cash, you might say, over to their grandkids. And my dad has done that. I have some of his. Both of my sons have some of the guns that he bought, back in the 40s and the 50s, and they're cherished family heirlooms almost that grandparents oftentimes pass on to their kids. And so there's something special about them. Many of them actually come with a story. And I can remember my dad telling the story of his 30-30 that he bought in 1950 at the co-op store for $103, and him telling me the story of the very first deer he shot with it, and it's quite a story. He shot a whole box of shells through it, and it's a story that lives out on at our hunting camp, what happened there. So many of them, people get very emotionally connected. So that's, I think, part of the reason you see the emotion in the room is there oftentimes with those weapons come some family stories that parents or grandparents pass on because they want to pass on kind of a piece of some of their experience in life.
Do any of you guys care to respond to those Wisconsin lawmakers that are saying come to our state based on the governor's budget proposal as more business friendly?
She's from Wisconsin.
I'm from Wisconsin. I think that Wisconsin is saying we're open for business, and I think Minnesotans are staying here. I grew up in Wisconsin, and it's where my family's from. I love Minnesota, and Minnesota is a great place to raise your family and educate your kids, and that's what we're working for here. And they may put up the signs, but Minnesotans they're nesting their businesses here and keeping their businesses here.
Well, I just can't help when I heard those comments. Like many of you, I was around back when Rudy Perpich was governor, and I remember he got into quite a tiff with Governor Janko from St. Cloud, and Governor Janko was putting up billboards, inviting Minnesota businesses to go to Wisconsin or to go to South Dakota. Maybe a little similar to what we have today, but we didn't see an exodus of businesses to South Dakota when Governor Janko was trying to recruit them back when Perpich was governor, and we're not going to see it this time either.
What do you think the legislature might do or should do in regards to silica sand mining in southeastern Minnesota this session? Do you have any thoughts on that?
No. It's going through the committee process, and there are people that do. It's just not me. There are people in the caucus that are working on stuff, and I just don't know the details.
Well, and I think, it's going to be important for us to hear from the members who represent the areas that are impacted by that. So I'm sure there will be legislation that is considered on that topic, but mostly I think we need to listen to the local officials and the people who represent those areas as we shape any proposal that might work its way through the session.
Yes, and I will just say it. I have talked both with Senator Miller and with Senator Schmidt and told them that I will really defer to them based it's their counties, their communities that are impacted, and if they can reach some kind of an agreement between them on what should be done, the committees and we'll consider it on the floor, but it certainly doesn't seem like it should be something that would be a partisan issue.
All right.
On a completely different topic, right now the legislature is not covered by the Data Practices Act. Do you think that should change for your own transparency?
I think we're fairly transparent. I also think we have a constitutional provision in the Minnesota Constitution that causes issues with our ability to do that, and we need to sort out those legal issues.
Other states include their legislatures in their version of the data practices law. They have constitutions too.
I don't know if they have that constitutional provision in their constitution. Thanks.